With all of the conference realignment we have seen in college football and college athletics over the past couple of years, and this obviously happening right now with the Pac-12 going extinct and most of their schools joining the Big Ten or the Big 12, everybody likes to poke fun at one specific school that is not joining the Big Ten because they are already there, and they get made fun of a little bit when it comes to the travel and having to travel all the way to this specific school, which is Rutgers. Now, Rutgers is located in Piscataway, New Jersey, which is about an hour outside of New York City, obviously due to traffic and stuff like that, but it's not really in the heart of the city or even on the outskirts, kind of like the Meadowlands where the Giants and Jets play. Piscataway, it's a little bit isolated down in New Jersey, but the reason that Rutgers joined the Big Ten to begin with was because the Big Ten was looking to expand. Obviously, we saw the downfall of the Big East, and when that happened, a lot of the schools left for different conferences. There was a lot of uncertainty. Big East ended, and it obviously still became a basketball conference, but the football schools, some of them left for the ACC, like Syracuse and Louisville. And then we obviously have Rutgers, which actually, I didn't remember this. I realized this when I was looking this up. They actually played a season in the American Conference. Yes, they played a season in the American Conference with some of the schools that were in the Big East, like Cincinnati and UConn, because the American Athletic Conference was created as a way to get some of the football schools that were in the Big East, like the lower level schools like USF, Memphis, Cincinnati, Temple, some of those schools, they created like a new football conference as well, because the Big East, when it rebranded, they were actually a basketball and other sports only conference. No longer were they going to have football. So they spent a season in the American, which is incredibly easy to forget about, before they ended up actually joining the Big Ten. And again, the reason they joined the Big Ten is because Big Ten kind of wanted to expand into the Eastern market. They grabbed up schools like Maryland, who was in the ACC, and then they grabbed up Rutgers, which they wanted that New York market. When this mattered because back in 2013, when they expanded, they wanted to pick up a lot of the cable boxes that were in that market zone, so the Big Ten could have a little bit of a further reach, which again, only a decade ago, it was a big deal at the time, but obviously looking at it now, it is a little funny that they wanted Rutgers specifically for that when it feels like they can obviously do without that at the moment. But Rutgers obviously joined the Big Ten, and their time in the Big Ten has not been all that successful in any of the major sports, which is why they get made fun of a lot. They also get made fun of because they're really more isolated than the other schools. I think they're about 3 hours from Maryland. Again, they're not even near the downtown New York City. It's about an hour away. So it's like if you're going to visit Rutgers as a fan of these new Pac-12 schools that are joining the Big Ten, or even a lot of the other Big Ten schools, it's not like you're going to be staying in the heart of New York City, getting that full Manhattan experience. You're going to be going to Piscataway, New Jersey, which is just completely a different atmosphere and feel than it is from the city. Rutgers, they do have some history. They obviously love to claim that they're the birthplace of college football because Rutgers played in the first intercollegiate football game all the way back in 1869 when Rutgers beat Princeton by the score of 6-4. Yes, that was the final score of that game. Football was a lot different all the way back in 1869, but looking at it now, I do feel like this is a little bit cheap because what other sport do you know of the birthplace of the sport? I don't necessarily think that should make Rutgers a contender for a Power 5 school just because they can claim that. I mean, Princeton's not a Power 5 school, and I don't see them going around claiming that. Now, let's get into the football team, even though there's not a whole lot to get into because their history, it's not as extensive as some of the other schools that are in the Big Ten. Football has been a little bit of a disaster as of recently. They've only appeared in one bowl game since 2015, and their bowl appearance came because Texas A&M had to back out of their bowl game during the COVID season, and they slid right into there, and they had a losing record. Should they have even been in that bowl game? No, they really shouldn't have been. And then this past football season, they were terrible. They only had one conference win versus Indiana, and this is what makes Rutgers football so funny is because Greg Schiano last season became the all-time winningest coach in the school's history, despite only winning 4 games and 1 conference game. That just goes to show how bad Rutgers football has been during the school's entire history. Now, they've had some successful seasons. I mean, every school you can honestly find a successful season hidden somewhere, like specifically 2006, back when Ray Rice was the running back. They went 11-2. They won the Texas Bowl, and they had some success in 2007, 8, and 9. But this was during the Big East football conference, and things were always unpredictable in that conference. It feels like everybody kind of had their turn to have some success. But I'm not going to hate too much on that success that they had. It still obviously counts. And then Greg Schiano left for the NFL, and Rutgers football had some really bad seasons. I mean, they were terrible up until recently when Greg Schiano came back. But since Schiano really came back, they've not been great. They were only good once Schiano got there, and it took them some time to even start making some bowl games. You know, their football team has just not been great. And when it comes to like NFL talent, some of the only guys I can really think of is like Logan Ryan, Isaiah Pacheco this past season. He's been great in the NFL for his one season with the Chiefs, and then the McCourty twins, I can think of them, but not really had a whole lot of NFL talent or superstars come out of there. And then the only really superstar I can think of is Carly Lloyd. She actually went to Rutgers. She obviously played for the U.S. women's national team, and maybe could have helped them out a little bit if, she was at a younger age during this past World Cup, because they went out way too early than they should have. But now let's get into basketball, because basketball is the one interesting sport that Rutgers can kind of claim as their own. Now, when it comes to basketball, maybe the Big Ten should have looked at adding UConn instead, because UConn obviously has the national titles, and their football programs, they've not been great, but I think they've made a New Year's Six Bowl more recently than Rutgers has back when they made the Fiesta Bowl. But again, for basketball, Rutgers basketball, they have a great home environment. The Rack, and I'm not going to call it Jersey Mike's Arena, but the Rack is just one of the greatest atmospheres in college basketball, and it used to not be like that at all. Steve Pikiell took over. They were a terrible program. They'd only made the NCAA tournament one time since 1991. It took them 30 years to make it back to the NCAA tournament. Finally made it back in 2021. They made it to the second round. They lost to Houston, and a really, really great basketball game if you remember it. Honestly, I feel bad for Rutgers because maybe they could have gone on a little bit of a run, maybe made a Final Four, who knows. And since then, they've only made the tournament one time, which they played in the first four, and then last season they missed the NCAA tournament barely. But again, they have a great home environment, and it's in the 2024 recruiting class that a lot of their fans are claiming to, because they actually have the number 2 recruiting class in the ranking, have the actual top 2 prospects, as long as Dylan Harper ends up staying and going to Rutgers. Obviously, his brother Ron Harper Jr. Played at Rutgers, a great basketball player. But again, if they can keep those two guys there, they have something to claim to. I will give Steve Pikiell his props. This guy turned Rutgers basketball into something that is actually competitive. I mean, I vividly remember a time when that place was empty, nobody was there, and it was quiet, and it was easy to win there. It is not that anymore. It's a uniquely designed arena, and it's why they're able to have such a great home environment. But that's kind of the one sport that Rutgers can really claim to. So yeah, that's Rutgers for you. And there's, again, other bad teams that are in the Big Ten. Like, it's easy to make fun of Indiana, but obviously Indiana has the college basketball titles, and they're just one of the best programs in college basketball. And it's easy to make fun of Northwestern, but Northwestern has that Chicago market, which definitely matters because that's where the Big Ten is located, and also Northwestern is such a prestigious academic school. And, they've made a Big Ten title game recently. So, you can make fun of those schools. And then you can even go out west and even make fun of Oregon State or Washington State for not getting invited to the Big Ten, or even Cal or Stanford. But honestly, I feel like they've had more success as of recently in other sports than Rutgers has had. Really, the only one thing that Rutgers can claim is where they're located, which is why they're even in the Big Ten to begin with. So that's, again, kind of the reason why Rutgers has become the butt of the joke when it comes to talking about conference realignment, how they've fitted into where they're at right now. Again, it's easy to make fun of them. I don't have a single issue with Rutgers. I enjoy watching Rutgers play, but I'm also a bit of a sicko. So that's why Rutgers is the joke of the Power 5. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully I cleared a little bit up for why they're a little bit of a joke to everybody. Thank you guys for watching. Peace.